when we're looking at teams that are trying to figure out how to contend or how to take down the Chiefs, the Cincinnati Bengals are an interesting case study here because they have money. They have the fourth most cap space, $59 million, but they're also going to have to figure out T. Higgins, right? So, and I think T. Higgins being franchised seems pretty realistic, right? So I don't think there's much question that they're going to have to figure out a way to keep him around. That being said, they hope that a healthy Joe Burrow is enough to put them right back in the Super Bowl conversation. And I think so highly of him. I think it is, right? Like, it's just, I think Joe Burrow is that, right? Like, when you talk about how do they overtake the Chiefs, it's pretty simple. They find a way to keep Joe Burrow healthy. They've invested in the offensive line. They need the offensive line to help them, but they also need Joe Burrow to just stay upright.
I mean, when you're talking about what hope do teams have, you kind of look at the Bengals this year and say, what if the Chiefs have a season like that where just everything goes wrong from the beginning of training camp, where Joe Burrow, he hurts his Achilles, I believe it was, or his calf. It was his calf muscle. And then he just never was the same early in the season, and they start to get going, and his wrist gets injured, and he's not done for the season. You don't hope for injuries, but things happen during the course of an NFL season where we all thought the Bengals were awesome coming into the year, and they weren't. It just never really clicked for them. And that's part of the concern I have for the Bengals is you never really were good when Burrow was on the field. A couple games, you played well. It beat the 49ers. That was the high point in their season, but they didn't look like a Super Bowl team at any point. I think they're going to be fine to run it back. It does make sense to bring Higgins back in a franchise tag and just see what happens after. Like they're going to have to pay Jamar Chase. The Burrow money's going to kick in. They're probably not going to be able to keep all three of those guys long term, but hey, let's just figure that out tomorrow. I think that's key for them. I think they're fine running it back. I really do. They did lose their offense coordinator. Maybe he's not a play caller, but Brian Callahan, there's a reason he was in that spot, so don't underestimate that. But I think for the Bengals is just run it back and hope for better luck, really. I mean, we've seen the Bengals beat the Chiefs. They one of the rare teams that have beat them in an AFC championship game in Kansas City. They're one of the teams that if you just keep your core together, run it back, you got a shot.
Yeah, I think also they're picking at that spot around 18 where in the NFL draft, they'll be able to get some value. It is interesting to me. Wide receivers always do so well. You wonder if they just try and draft one at some point to replace T. Higgins, but also they could address defensive line. I think that would make a lot of sense too. Like it's pretty easy for the Bengals, I think, to restock, reload, and they get all the benefit of the doubt because they were without Burrow. And that's just realistically, you take away one of the best quarterbacks in the game, and you're going to see a drop off in your production.